Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to talk about something a little uncomfortable. We're looking at the one emotion the ego just refuses to admit it has: envy.
It really is the ultimate taboo feeling, isn't it? And we all know the reflex. You're scrolling, you see a colleague's huge promotion, and for just a second, your stomach does this tiny little flip.
That's it. Some of our sources call it the 3-second denial.
It's that fast. You feel the lurch, and then almost instantly, the cover-up begins, the mental gymnastics.
Right. You don't think, I wish that were me. Instead, your brain immediately serves up, oh, congrats, or it's fine, my turn will come, or my personal favorite, well, they just got lucky.
We're so good at it, and it's because we've been taught that envy, or dokko, as some of the existentialist sources frame it, is just shameful. It's petty, it's selfish, and the person we believe we are, this good person, can't possibly feel that.
And that's really the core question of this deep dive, pulling from thinkers like Camus. The question isn't, do you get envious? I mean, of course you do. The real question is, why the desperate need to deny it so quickly?
Exactly. What are we so afraid of seeing in ourselves?
So our mission today is to stop running. We're going to explore what we can actually gain by looking that feeling straight in the eye and using it as a signal, not a failure.
Okay, so let's get into that denial. What exactly is the ego trying to protect when it shuts down so fast?
Well, it's not the feeling itself that's the threat. It's the self-image. The sources we looked at, they really echo Sartre on this. He argued that people aren't afraid of the truth.
What are they afraid of then?
They're afraid of the truth destroying the careful, curated image they've built of themselves. And envy is just lethal to that image.
Because it shatters the story that you're this generous, happy for others kind of person.
Instantly. And you're right, it's so subtle. It isn't this big roaring hate. It's that thin, difficult feeling that shows up after you've already sent the polite congrats text. It's just enough to make you want to look away or maybe close the app.
And the rationalizations are immediate. We're masters at it. Oh, I'm just tired, or I'm in a bad mood today. The ego loves those excuses because it dodges the real confession.
So, if it's not a major sin, why is it such a profound threat to our identity?
This is where it gets really interesting, connecting to the work of Kafka. His characters, they often aren't hiding huge crimes. They're hiding these small, uncomfortable feelings that threaten their whole sense of who they are.
And envy is one of those.
It's the perfect example. Because envy whispers a truth the ego absolutely cannot stand to hear.
Which is?
There is something you want, and you don't have it.
Wow. And it directly contradicts the narrative of being enough, of being stable and whole and not needing to look at anyone else's life.
Precisely. And that's why someone like Camus would say, look, this isn't a moral fault. It's an existential signal. It's a map pointing to the gap between the life you're living and the life you might have truly desired.
But instead of reading the map, we burn it. Because admitting we're lacking feels like admitting we failed.
That makes so much sense. But where does this intense sensitivity to our position even come from? Why are we wired this way?
Well, the psychological sources suggest a real shift happens for many of us around, say, age 12. Before then, comparison is just data. She's faster, I'm taller.
It's neutral.
It's neutral. But then the brain starts logging a new equation. Recognition equals being better than someone else. We learn that our worthiness, our sense of belonging, is tied to where we stand in relation to others.
So it stops being about what you have and starts being about what you are. This sounds a lot like Sartre's idea of the gaze.
It's exactly that. The focus shifts from the material thing, the car, the award, to something much deeper. Envy is really born from seeing someone else receive the gaze, the validation, the spotlight.
And the ego feels excluded, left out of that frame.
Hypersensitive to it. So the real unspoken question of envy isn't, I want their house. It's, if they are getting that validation, then where am I? That's a question about your very existence in the social world. It's not about stuff.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And it's why we can handle disappointment or sadness. Those feelings don't automatically mean we're inferior. But envy is a brutal confession. It forces you to admit, I am comparing myself and I'm coming up short.
And that just shatters the self-image. So we slam the door, we judge the feeling.
We put it on trial in our own minds. The verdict is always the same. Envy is bad. We use morality to crush the feeling so we don't have to face the more painful truth, which might be, maybe I compromised on what I really wanted.
And what happens when we suppress it like that? Camus warned about this, right?
He did. Denied emotions never disappear. They They find another way out. They get distorted.
And what does that distortion look like?
It often turns into what our sources call chebai. It's not just criticism. It's a kind of cold-cutting sarcasm meant to diminish the other person, to bring them back down.
Rationalizations like, oh, they were just lucky, or I bet they're not really happy.
Exactly. We try to soothe our own feeling of being less than by making them less than. And in the process, we completely miss the message the original feeling was trying to send us.
Which was simply asking,
what is it you're truly craving? And why won't you admit it, even to yourself?
so we've got this internal battle raging, but let's connect it to the world we actually live in. Because there's this huge paradox, isn't there?
A huge one. We live in a society that is literally designed to make us compare. I mean, 99% of us are always looking up at the 1%. And yet, the moment we feel the natural result of that envy, we're told it's shameful.
This sounds like Nietzsche, the idea of societal control mechanisms.
It's a perfect fit. You have what you might call the engine and the reins. Society needs both to function.
Okay, break that down for us. What's the engine?
The engine is constant comparison. It's aspiration. This system is always screaming, look at them, follow them, be a better version of yourself. It's what drives ambition, production, the whole economy.
Right. And the reins.
The reins are the shame. The moment that engine produces the inevitable friction, the feeling of envy society whispers, oh no, don't be like that. Good people are happy for others.
It's a brilliant form of control, actually. Society doesn't ban comparison.
No, it encourages it. It just bans the admission of the feeling it creates.
Because if you admit you're envious, you might start asking bigger questions, like, why is the system set up this way?
Precisely. But if you only feel shame, you turn inward. The problem becomes me. You just focus on trying to fix yourself, and the system rolls on, completely unexamined.
Social media is the perfect example of this. We're pushed to look and compare these perfect, curated lives. But when we feel that sinking feeling,
the solution is always individual. Practice self-love. Focus on your journey. The structural cause is never mentioned.
Because admitting widespread envy would mean admitting some uncomfortable truths. That there's real inequality. That hard work doesn't always close the gap.
Truths that a system built on individual hustle does not want to hear. And so, it perfects the language. Envy is labeled low, negative.
But ambition, drive, positive pressure, those are high, productive.
Even though they're often just envy in a business suit, it's the same fuel, just rebranded to keep the moral order intact.
And the result of pushing this universal feeling underground.
It always comes out sideways, as cynicism. As taking secret pleasure when others fail. Not because we're monsters, but because a normal human emotion has been forced to live in the dark.
So let's talk about the cost, the existential cost of all this denial, this constant performance. What does it do to a person over time?
It thins you out. It erodes you from the inside. Sartre talked about this exhaustion. It's not the exhaustion of living, but the exhaustion of performing. Performing this image of the generous, non-comparing person, even when you're completely alone.
And that performance takes a toll on our real emotions.
It does. You start to lose the capacity for genuine joy for other people. Something just closes up inside. You go through the motions, you say congratulations, but that nagging question is always there under the surface.
What about me?
What about me? And this is the real danger Kafka warned about. It's not some big dramatic explosion of pain. It's a fading out. You lose your own signal. You don't know what you really feel or want anymore.
The irony being, as Kim has pointed out, that the ego doesn't break when it admits envy. It breaks under the strain of pretending it doesn't feel it.
The denial is the acid. So the goal can't be to eliminate envy. It's a human signal. The goal has to be to disarm it.
And the sources give us a clear, if uncomfortable, strategy for that. A few steps.
3 steps, really, to move from denial to a kind of discipline. And step 1 is the hardest. You have to separate the emotion from the story.
When you say the story, you mean the justification.
The justification,
Right.
that rationalization that is showing off, I didn't want that anyway. You have to consciously stop that internal monologue and just acknowledge the feeling itself.
Just note its presence. An uncomfortable feeling of comparison is here. Full stop.
And when you do that, when you strip away the judgment, envy shows you what it really is. Orientation data, it's a compass needle, pointing directly at something your soul is craving.
Which brings us to step 2.
Step 2 is asking the unsparing question. Not, why am I such a bad person for feeling this? But rather, what in their situation is touching on something I am neglecting in my own life?
That reframes it completely. It forces you to look at your own compromises, your own fears, the person you envy becomes a mirror.
They're just the messenger. Annoying, but useful. Which leads to step 3, which is pure Stoic discipline. Moralize your actions, not your emotions.
You're not responsible for that initial 3-second lurch.
You're not. But you are 100% responsible for what you do next. You can feel the sting of envy and still choose to act with kindness, to offer a genuine congratulations. And then you take that feeling, that data, and you use it to fuel your own work, not to tear someone else down.
That process, moving from denial to discipline, that's the path to what the sources call the promised land.
Right. And the promised land isn't a magical place where you never feel envy again. That's not realistic.
So what is it?
It's the place where envy loses its power over you. You'll still see others succeed. You might still feel that brief, familiar pang, but it doesn't drag you down. It doesn't own you.
You just see it for what it is, a signal, not a command.
And that is a profound kind of freedom. Freedom from being yanked around by an emotion you're too afraid to name.
And when you get there, you realize something pretty amazing.
You do. You realize you don't need other people to fail for you to feel okay. You can be genuinely happy for their success because their success is no longer a verdict on your failure.
It brings us right back to Camus, that the strongest person isn't the one who wins. It's the one who doesn't need to win to know they exist.
This path isn't easier, but it is so much more honest. You stop living in fear of being found out is not enough. You become a person who knows what they're living for, and that's it.
The honesty is the relief. Envy isn't the enemy. The refusal to listen to it is.
Which brings us to one final provocative thought from the sources, a question for you to hold.
Let's hear it.
If tomorrow morning you woke up and there was no one left to compare yourself to, no one to chase, no audience, no gaze to see,
Total silence.
total silence, what would remain that is important enough for you to keep on living?
Hold that question. Imagine that silence where you don't have to prove anything or hide anything. Just be there and see what's left.